I didn't have a role model. My mother was we're from a very religious family, a gospel family. My grandfather was a minister, and my mother was the baby of 12 children, and they were all raised in the church. There was always singing around all the time. I guess maybe part of that became me, and I guess the spiritual part of me comes from my heritage through that. And music to me was always a healer somehow in our family, and there was always singing and there was always music, as I can remember since I was little. And I think if there was any role models at all, it was my parents, my mother especially, and her sisters, because they all sang in the church. There wasn't like any movie star idols or anything like that. I think when we grew up on television, there was only Amos and Andy, or I don't even think Lena Horne or any of the movie stars that we know of today were around then. I mean, I remember hearing about Eartha Kitt when I was about 12 years old, but there was no idols. There was nobody we could look up to. We had to create our own idols, and usually it was our parents. To me, my mother was the most magnificent woman in the world, and if I could ever even live up to my mother's standards, then I would be okay. I started to sing, and I lived out of the fashion magazines. I wanted to be a fashion designer when I was really young. And I worked in Detroit at a department store. I was a busgirl, you know, the girls that clean the dishes. And I used to be there basically because it could keep me where the store windows with all the beautiful clothing and everything else. Even though we couldn't afford it, I was there so I could see beautiful things. And then when I went to high school, I majored in fashion design and costume illustration. So I wanted to design clothes. And I went to beauty school so I could fix hair and do beautiful things with hair. And then I did makeup. So by the time I was 16, 17, and I met the Supremes, the first things I would do is we would wear our hair differently, and we'd wear makeup, and we'd always design our costumes. And I designed some of the first costumes for the Supremes. And I remember they were balloon dresses. I don't know if anybody remembers that in the 60s, the early 60s, these big balloon dresses. And so fashion and cosmetics and hair have always been a very important part of the singing, the glamour of it all. We were living out of fashion magazines. It wasn't a lot of television. I remember when I got my first television when I was a youngster. So things have blossomed. I've been singing now since the 60s, and in the early days I learned what the things that are important. Lights and sound and the look of the stage, the setting is very important, but mostly what's important is the voice, so that the people can hear the words of the song. So to me, the sound is more important than anything when I walk on the stage. I'm not going to worry about the gowns. I'm not going to worry about the makeup. I'm not going to worry about anything except knowing that the people can hear the words of the songs or the melody of the songs that they're used to hearing on record. So to me, when I walk on the stage, I don't want to worry about anything except knowing that they can hear that the sound is good for them. It's not too loud. It's not too soft. That the sound is perfect. So I'm a producer in a sense because I've been doing this for a long time. I know that the theatrics of a show is very important, that people like to see lights and they like to see the glamour of it all. But to me, what's more important is the song and the words and the interpretation of the words and the interaction between me and the audience. Costume changes are really about, it started because I can make costume changes very quickly. I got caught in a trap really, because now I can't not make a costume change. And I like changing because I think the girls or the women in the audience like to see the difference in the costumes, especially in America. And I designed them, and they're very special because they don't make these kind of beaded costumes anymore in America. It's like a lost art. They actually have to make these beads with their fingers, and they bead these costumes. And I think from the audience, I'm not even sure they understand that these are hand-beaded costumes. And each one of them is an original. There's only one of those kind. And I've had them designed in Los Angeles, and I don't know how long I will be able to continue to have them. So I love to change my clothes all the time. I think the audience likes it, and I like it too. I couldn't wear one gown for an hour and a half. It's too long. So that's really about the costumes. And I design them. I've designed clothes since the 60s. My husband reminds me, he said, you know, when you say working, you mean touring, because you're always working. I don't think I'm a workaholic, but I do know that in my life, I need to have a purpose every day. When I wake up, I like to have something to do. I like to have a plan. And I can't always accomplish it. I'm not always as I would like to be. But I know that I like to stay busy, and I like to get something completed. I don't like to waste my life or to waste any time. I think I stay busy because it keeps me vital, it keeps me alive, and I think it keeps me young too. When I'm at home, mostly what I do is my life is consumed by my children. I have 5 kids. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a lot of kids. And I have 5 babies, which I birthed myself. And I didn't have cesareans or anything. I really birthed my children myself. I nursed them. Each of them, I nursed them at least 6 months to a year. And the most rewarding time of my life was to be pregnant. Which is weird, but it's true. It is the most wonderful time to have children. And I always wanted to have children. I remember when I was with the Supremes, we kept trying to figure out who was going to be the one to have the first baby. I'm up in the morning at 6 in the morning. My kids are up at 7. I get them ready for school. We're out the door at 8 o'clock. I take my kids to school by 8:30. I'm in the office by 9. 9 o'clock till about 2:30, I'm doing my office business, whether it's touring or planning new tours or concerts or settings or costumes or whatever it is, or any new business. I'm working on that until about 2:30. 2:30, I leave in the car to pick them up at 3 o'clock from school. Have a snack. I'm with my kids until they go to bed with homework. I'm mommy. They have homework after school. They're in bed by 8:30. We watch television together. We read a book, and they're off to bed at sleep. I'm in bed maybe 9:30. I'm not very social. I don't go out a lot. On the weekends, we go to the country, and I spend time with my kids. We play soccer. We go swimming. We take long walks with the dogs, and I'm an ordinary person. I drive to the market. I go and I shop for lunches for school, and I'm just really fairly ordinary when I'm at home. I spend a lot of time on the telephone talking to my other children, my older children, who one lives in Washington, one, I just spend time with them. I don't do a lot of shopping. I don't like to shop, although I know people think that I shop a lot. I don't like to shop. I find it really hard to shop because it's hard to be out in the public. And then that's my day. From school starts in September, and it goes all the way through until long school breaks. I try to take vacation. I spend time in Europe with my husband, and that's it. It's kind of